You found it. Your home for the best content on your favorite team, the Fighting Tigers of LSU. Do us a favor, subscribe to the channel, leave your comments below, and be sure to smash that like button. Kimo Makaneole entered the transfer portal on Friday. Remember, the portal window closed December the 28th, but every team has 5 days after their bowl game to enter the portal. So there will be 2 teams that play for the national championship on January 20th. Those teams, their players will have until January 25th to enter the portal. So while the portal window is closed, it's extended as teams finish their bowl game. So it's not completely over as we hear names of guys entering the portal, and obviously there will be declarations of where people are going. But Kimo Makaneole becomes the latest LSU player to enter the portal, the 18th LSU player to enter the transfer portal here in this cycle, offset by the 14 portal additions for LSU. But if I had one surprise about Kimo, it's not that he's entering the portal now, it's that he didn't enter the portal after last season. One of the things we often talk about with guys at a program like LSU, this isn't just unique to LSU. I mean, elite programs like LSU, where every year you're churning out top-tier recruiting classes. If you haven't gotten a foothold into a rotation and become a contributing player by year 3, it's probably not going to happen because you have 3 recruiting classes behind you of talented players trying to take your job. There are exceptions. Lloyd Cushenberry is maybe the most notable exception that we talked about. Didn't play his first 3 years. By year 4, won the starting center job, became a 2-year starter, national champion, a 4th-round draft pick, and when he signed a deal with the Titans, was the highest-paid center in the NFL. So that happens. It's just uncommon. So when Kimo, redshirt, he was a 3-star coming out of the state of Florida when he signed with LSU, played both sides of the line in high school, came as an offensive lineman, redshirts in 2021. In 2022, plays in 5 games, just 30 snaps, all of them on special teams. Last year, played in 4 games with 37 snaps on the season. That's where it was maybe a little surprising that he didn't exit, considering you had 4 starters returning, right? I mean, you had Campbell and Emory Jones and Dellinger and Frazier all returning. There was no path to the field for Kimo. So he flipped to defensive tackle, where you had a very real need on the defensive line, and he was there to provide depth. But even coming out of spring, when Brian Kelly said point blank, the biggest glaring need, the must coming out of spring last year was defensive tackle, and they went and added Jay'Vair Suggs at that point. And Gio Paez had been added as well. It was just pretty clear that he wasn't going to factor into the rotation on the defensive side as well, and he didn't. So in this year, in 2024, Kimo did play in 9 games, but only 41 snaps on the whole season. So Kimo exits, and I don't mean this to be disrespectful to Kimo. I mean this just through the lens of LSU. The fact that Kimo Makaneole, who's going to his 5th year of college, is leaving is probably a good sign for the defensive tackle room. The other bit of news on Friday was Jay'Vair Suggs. So we knew Jay'Vair Suggs had already entered the portal, but on Friday, Jay'Vair Suggs announced his commitment to Wisconsin. So from whence Gio Paez came, Jay'Vair Suggs is now going. And when you look at Jay'Vair Suggs, of course, came to LSU from Grand Valley. This year, Suggs played there were 6 games this season. 6 of the 12 games that Suggs played, 6 of the 12, he played single-digit snaps. So, let that sink in. In half of the games he played this year, he played single-digit snaps on the interior of the defensive line. You see, Suggs established himself as a singular role player. His role was interior pass rush. He wasn't an every down player at defensive tackle. He was an interior pass rusher, and he was really good at that role. 2.5 sacks, 3 TFLs, 11 pressures, 7 quarterback hurries. He did his job exceptionally well. He was always one of the highest graded guys on Pro Football Focus when we would talk about that every week. It's just that he had a very limited role on this team. And so the fact that these 2 veteran guys are leaving, I think, is a good sign for the defensive tackle room, because If there was a bigger role for them in 2025, they'd be staying. But the fact that there isn't a bigger role for them in 2025 probably suggests, let me say this the other way. The fact that they're leaving suggests there isn't a bigger role for them in 2025, which I think also tells me Bo Davis is pretty excited about the guys he has. Remember, coming out of the spring game last year, Brian Kelly said point blank, they had to go address defensive tackle. Like, they had to go address defensive tackle. And they did. They added Suggs in the second portal window. But that was a must. That was the most glaring need. Coming out of this season, defensive tackle wasn't your biggest weakness. You got very, not dominant, but serviceable play from Gio Paez, from Paris Shand, who played on the inside, from Ahmad Bro, played really well as a freshman, from Don McKinley, who grew up in the second half of the season when he came up off the toe injury. And I think what that suggests is Bo Davis is really encouraged by the guys he has. Jacobian Guillory's coming off of injury. That's almost like getting a portal player. Like, can we agree to that? I mean, Guillory was on the roster, but he didn't play for you this year. So that's almost like adding a player out of the portal in Jacobian Guillory. Don McKinley, Ahmad Bro going into their sophomore seasons. You did add Sadir Mitchell from Texas, 6'6", 330. Bo Davis had him at Texas. He's entering his third year in college, so another big dude that can be part of your rotation. Sean Washington will be back. He'll be a redshirt junior, so a fourth-year junior. Played in a dozen games this year for LSU. So, that, and then you're adding 4 freshman defensive tackle signees. I mean, that's 9 players right there on the interior. Can you find a rotation of 4 or 5 guys on the interior among those 9? My guess is Bo Davis is thinking he can. So you never want to see guys leave. Sometimes when guys leave, it's an illustration of what you have and what's there on your roster. And I think at defensive tackle, in a calendar year's time, really in less than a calendar year's time, Bo Davis in a calendar year. Remember, they hired Bo Davis last January. In a calendar year, Bo Davis has taken that room from the biggest question mark on the team to certainly not a question mark. Are they going to be dominant like we've seen championship defensive lines in the past? I don't know that. Maybe. But dramatically better than where you were a calendar year ago or even 6 months ago coming out of spring ball. Defensive tackle was the biggest concern for LSU. It certainly is not anymore. Hey, thanks so much for watching. Please leave your comments. I love to interact. And be sure to hit the red subscribe button below.